Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the T&T Podcast. As always, it's your boy Tyler Layfield, and today, bringing back the goal line stand guys right here, Jackson Caudill and Kobe Reed. How's it going, fellas?
What's going on, big dog? We're finally back. We made it to college football season. Always a good day.
It's always good day talking football. It's been a while since we've had the big trifecta on. So
Yeah. Torres out there. He's out in Vegas. He's supporting Trevor Peak, as Trevor Peak will be having a fight this weekend as one of his teammates. And in other news, Torres is actually going to be going back to Dana White's Contender Series on October 1st. So he'll be right back at it here soon. We'll get him on whenever he gets back. For today, though, we're going to be talking. We got a few subjects we're going to talk about, and ACC things are going pretty good. Things going pretty good right now, but I guess we got to start off with some bad. FSU's fall, and this isn't. I've got Florida State fan friends, and this is by no means a trashing session. This is by no means me picking on them, but I felt like it has to be said. Something we've got to talk about this, guys. We talked about it, them losing to Georgia Tech, and we referenced this last show. We picked all three of us. Me, Torres, and Jackson, we ended up picking FSU to win but not to cover. And I was able to catch a good bit of the game last night. It was pretty ugly. Kobe, been a minute since I heard from you, period. I just want to hear that voice. I want to hear you talk about some Florida State right now, man. Let's hear. What do you think is the reason for this slump that they seem to be in?
Well, I think Mike Norvell is a fantastic coach. I really do. But I think a lot of this stems from we have two different dynamics in the ACC. We have Clemson and Dabo, who are not going to dabble in the transfer portal whatsoever. And then we have Mike Norvell at Florida State, which is the opposite end of that spectrum. They might have overindulged themselves in the transfer portal because you got to think about it, guys. They've missed out, closing out on a lot of high-level elite 4-star and 5-star athletes on signing day. They've lost a lot of guys. I think it started with Travis Hunter. Like, you lose a big-time guy like that, and you're not able to close out on these high-talent kids coming out of high school. I think that's where we're starting to see the gap in their roster, where they just don't have the guys developed in the system and making plays. I mean, they dipped into the transfer portal a lot this year. They got a lot of Alabama guys. They got DJU, of course. They got a lot of guys on that defense. Marvin Jones from Georgia transferred in. They got a lot of good talent in the portal, but these are guys that they're just trying to plug and play, and I think that's why you're seeing so many holes in this team. Not to mention, DJU is exactly who DJU has been since he was at Clemson. I mean, we had high expectations. We love to see that bounce-back quarterback story. We saw a little bit of it with Spencer Rattler a little bit last year when he went to South Carolina. He had a little bit of success there, won a couple big games. But DJU is just not that guy. I think you got to pull the plug. I think you got to get Brock in there. You got to get a quarterback change. You got to get somebody in there that gives your team life. Because right now, DJU, you can see the body language on the sidelines. The teammates are not just bought into that guy as their quarterback.
Yeah, Jackson.
I mean, I think Kobe hit it on the head. Like, I think Mike Norvell is a good coach too. I think he has a pretty good idea of how to run a program. He's a good game day coach. I do think he's a good play caller, although like he's leaving me mystified with some of the things he's doing in these first two games. But I do think this is showing that high school recruiting is still the number one way to build out your roster and developing them, not just getting them, but developing them. They haven't done that. He's never had a top 10 class. And from the looks of it so far this year, they've missed on all their portal guys. Like, you think about it in the last little bit, like Keon Coleman was fantastic. Johnny Wilson was good. Like, people forget he was a transfer, I think. They just think he was there. He was a transfer. Jared Verse, transfer. Yeah. Braden Fisk was a transfer. Tatum Bethune, a starting linebacker from last year, transfer. Ventrell Cypress was a transfer, and he's still there, and he's pretty solid. But I'm still mystified as to why they took DJU. I say this, I'm wrong on Florida State. I had them getting to the ACC title game, even though I did pick them to lose to Georgia Tech. But I still had them in the playoff just because I thought their schedule was lenient enough, and I really bought into the idea that their ground game was going to really be good. Like, Mike Norvell has
it was non-existent.
It's terrible. It's so bad.
Yeah.
And going back to his days at Memphis, like he put several guys in the NFL as far as running backs go, and I bought into their running game being so good that we can cover up DJ. We know he's just limited, but we can cover him up. But like they don't have a good running game. They're toast because those receivers are not very good. And I get DJU as the main focus point, but I think a lot of it needs to shift to the defense because this is where I was very wrong, and I'll admit it. I thought their defense was going to be good.
There was a lot of buzz that they had the best D-line in college football.
Jackson referenced that one on the last one.
Yeah, I never went that far with it,
but people have.
Peyton was good last year. Josh Farmer was good last year. They're not good this year. Marvin Jones has been awful to start the year, and they have.
Wonder who could have told you that.
Well, yeah. But they have, without a doubt, I think at least through their first 2 games, they have the worst linebacker play in the ACC. Yeah. Because you could see immediately from the start of that game what Georgia Tech was going to do, and Buster Faulkner was going to make those linebackers decide, put them in tough positions, and they failed miserably. Last night, it was the same exact thing. I hear all about – I don't even know how good their secondary is because nobody's even trying to throw the ball on them. Haynes King attempted 15 passes. I mean, he completed 11 of them. But they didn't even want to throw the ball. It's okay, they averaged over 6 yards a carry. So, I agree, DJU should take some blame. I think the defense should take a whole lot more. And just my last comment here, I know I've been going on kind of long, but I also think Norvell, his play calling in some of these first 2 games, we can all go back to 2020, and we know that DJU cannot throw outside the numbers. How many times last night did you see them trying to go way outside and trying to have just throw way outside, and he just sailed them because that's just not what he's good at. And they tried to do it over and over again. And also their tight end kept dropping passes all over the place.
But I'll rebut that at the same time. If guys are open, because everybody's seen that viral clip of a guy in the back corner of the end zone wide open. If those outside routes are getting open, I mean, I feel like that's more reasonable to make that play call and just hope your quarterback makes the play, whereas you're calling routes going across the middle of the field, everybody's contested, and forcing DJU to force a ball in there just because that's the only thing he's good at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I get you. We just know he's not good at it. It's my only thing. You just have to.
And maybe we just got to chalk it up, charge it to the game. He's just not a good quarterback. He doesn't start it.
It's ugly. It's ugly. And then I was going through, just doing some online digging, and I saw somebody started up, what do you call it, Spaces or whatever, and DJU's dad just going in on some Florida State fans, it got pretty ugly. It got pretty ugly. It's not a good time for the program right now. They're off this week, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God. It came at a good time.
Their season so far, if you're an FSU fan, we ain't got to watch them this week.
Yeah, and it'll be Memphis, so we'll see how that goes. Memphis is one of those teams they were kind of talked about.
One more thing I'm going to say about Florida State, just think about the reality of college football we're in. When has a team ever opened the season 0-2 and could still win out and we still think they could make the playoffs? Think about that.
Yeah, but they're not winning out.
They're not. I'm just saying, but hypothetically, that's the age of college football we're in.
But the thing is, I thought Georgia Tech was a lot better than people give them credit for, but these were supposed to be 2 games they were supposed to win because think about it. As bad as Clemson looked the other day, don't tell me you think Florida State's going to score on Clemson's defense. Florida State's offense.
Yeah, Clemson's defense is still pretty good, and if it's DJ, it's not going good.
Yeah,
they still have to play Notre Dame. We're going to talk about them, I'm sure. They still got to play Miami.
Yeah.
Miami, Clemson, Notre Dame, like you said. We'll see if I don't know. It's going to be kind of tough. We'll have to see what kind of team Cal is going to, trot out against them. And then I'm not going to go crazy to say that Memphis is a given. I don't know. Memphis is one of those that was talked about pretty highly before the season as a group of 5. We'll have to see how it goes. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's not great. You don't. I guess we don't have to stay on it too long, but not quite the opening to the season we kind of expected here. So that's what happens. I've said it time and time again, similar to what Kobe's saying. If you can't recruit high school and you're relying on these transfers, if you're just paying hired mercenaries to come in and try to save you, it's not the right move, especially if you do it to the magnitude that they've done it. Now, if you can bring in a piece or two that can be in a position that is highly influential, similar to what, I don't know, what did DJU commit to Florida State before Ward committed to Miami? So it was after.
From what I remember, Cam Ward decided to go to the NFL, and then DJU went there. That's how I remember it.
And then he changed his mind.
Yeah.
And then went to Miami. Man. Because, I mean, not to say that he would make a difference, but I think he would make a difference. I think he would make a big difference.
I'll also say this, though. Miami's receivers and backfield are far and away better than Florida State's.
They are.
And their offensive line.
Their offensive line.
Nasty.
Yeah. Miami did. While we're on it, let's go to it. Week 2 recap. Let's go ahead. That was fun. That was freaking fun. I freaking loved that game. I'm not even talking about Georgia right now. I loved watching Florida just get their tails whooped. That was awesome. Miami, man, they were making me so happy just based off of
Gators could end up
everything.
2-11 or 2-10 this year.
I said it, and I think it's happening. It's going to be who did I say? Mississippi State, and who was the other one? The gimme game. It was Sanford, man. So, that's what it's looking like. Miami looked good. They were making great plays. Ward was throwing it all over the field. Defense made some big plays. They went in and they did exactly what I kind of called last week. And man, it feels good. Like when you hit like that, it just feels really good. I was talking about there was going to be memes. Sure enough, there was memes coming from the fans in the stands. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Just coming from a Georgia fan. What about y'all?
I'm gonna make a wild comparison, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong. If you just look at the swagger that Cam Ward played with, the confidence level he played with, but also the athleticism, the darts he was throwing, he reminded me a lot of Kyler Murray at Oklahoma. I'm not necessarily the speed comparison, not necessarily he's not as good as a dual threat, but him extending plays, jogging out of the pocket 20 yards downfield, throwing darts across his body. It was very electric quarterback play that we have not seen in Miami in a very long time.
It was like that composure he kind of had, like where he's just taking it easy. Yeah, when he'd sprint away and then he'd start jogging there toward the end.
Like it's just that confidence, like that swagger. I love it. I love to see that.
I could see that. I can see the comparison there, and he was throwing some strikes and he was scrambling left and right. I liked a lot of what I saw from Miami. I really did, man.
Jackson, let me ask you this: where does the Florida program go from here? First of all, does does Billy Napier make it to the end of the season?
No, because like it's the way I have to take the L here because now I picked Miami to win, and I have Miami winning the ACC before the season, and I picked Cam Ward to win the Heisman. So I do want to take
right now. That's looking pretty good.
You're correct.
The fact that their big in-state rival came in, like Florida showed zero fight in that game, like zero fight. Like I guess you had the Montrell Johnson run, which was fine.
That's about it.
If you take that away, they have like 190 yards on like 50-something plays.
Yeah,
it's pretty ugly. And I wasn't paying too much attention. I saw when Mertz went down, but what were y'all's thoughts on Lagway when he came in?
Lagway threw a pick. He also had a touchdown. Here's the thing about Lagway, and I was just having this conversation.
He's still young. He's young.
Do not throw him in there at the trajectory so far. Do not just throw him in there just to throw him in there. Because here's the thing. No matter who's at quarterback, Florida's offensive line looked abysmal. Can we all agree?
They don't recruit it. They refuse to. Like right now, I'm pretty sure, last time I checked, they have 0 offensive line committed for this coming up class.
So do not throw a young quarterback in there. We've seen this too many times. Do not throw a young quarterback in there just because you feel like you need a change, especially with this gauntlet of a schedule that you got. Do not throw him in there and A, put him at risk to get hurt, and B, at risk to crush his confidence because that is a talented kid. I have full faith in Lagway that he will be a successful football player.
He is good.
But do not throw him in there just to either ruin his confidence or ruin his body. You cannot do that to a young kid.
Yeah, right now 0 offensive line committed at the moment. They don't value the trenches, and when you don't value the trenches, this is what happens.
You know who does though? Mario Cristobal.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
He got a nasty offensive line.
For anything you can say about Mario Cristobal, going back to Alabama to Oregon, he recruits and he develops offensive linemen, and it showed.
Yep. I will say this, and we've been y'all are well educated football guys. Y'all understand what I'm about to say. We've been waiting for one of the big 3 in the state of Florida to really take over recruiting. I don't believe because of the pipelines and now NIL I don't believe just one single school can lock down the state of Florida in recruiting. There's too much talent to go around.
Yeah.
But we've been waiting on one of the big three to really start recruiting heavily, and Miami has done that. Miami didn't have a lot of success last year, but they still recruited at a high level last year. They're recruiting at a high level this year, and now we're starting to see it translate to the field. I think Miami is really about to take off, especially with the decline of Florida State and Florida based off of what we've seen these last couple of weeks. I think Miami is really primed to make a big jump and become that dominant school in the state of Florida again.
If they can learn from Florida State's mistake on, because last year that like Jackson, I got to give it to you, man. You made a pretty good comparison. Like you said, this year's Miami team can be like last year's Florida State, catching those transfer portals at the right time, catching lightning in a bottle, and if they can learn from this, if they can harness what they got now and then turn it into long-term success, they can be successful. They really can. And so it's all about them maximizing the potential of what they got going on right now. And like you said, they do have a pretty good class. I'm rolling through it right now, just who they have committed at the moment. It's pretty solid, and it's probably only going to continue to grow if the success that they had on Saturday continues.
Well, I mean, one more point I was going to make just on that is like I've always thought like Mike Norvell's like a better play caller and maybe game day coach than Cristobal, because I think we all think he lacks a little bit there in those areas, even going back to Oregon. He laps Norvell and Napier. I don't even want to put Napier in that discussion, but like, just in terms of recruiting, he laps Norvell badly.
Yeah.
Think about it. Miami has been 5-7 and 7-6 in Cristobal's 2 years, and they've signed the two highest recruiting classes Miami's ever had in the modern era. My hot take that I've kind of had for a while now, maybe it's not a hot take. I think if he starts winning big there, I think their recruiting goes to like Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State.
Very well could.
I'm talking
He comes from that coaching tree.
all the time. Like, I mean, he's already shown he can recruit at a high level. It's just they win big on the field. Like I do think that monster is going to get unlocked down there.
And another thing is that we need to talk about is if we're talking NIL, who's going band for band with Miami? Texas, Oregon? That's really about it.
Maybe
Miami's
Ohio
got
State.
USC, maybe.
No,
I don't
not
think
even
USC.
USC.
Shit, they'll be paying people just to commit. They'll be out there paying people just to commit. I don't know, man. That's stupid money.
We're talking about high level talent that stays through signing.
Uh-huh.
What's the name of the offensive tackle they got? I think he's starting this year. He's a
Who?
I think it was a 5-star kid, Francis
Mauoga.
Mawanoa.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
And then they got Samson Okunlola. All them, they got some studs.
Talent. You got a lot of talent, and it's elite talent coming out of high school, and that's where Florida State is lacking. They're not following through signing day, and Miami's really going to take off.
And real quick, just to wrap it up here on Miami, but Miami, if that's a dangerous school. That is a dangerous school. If they start building something here, they're going to be perennial, and that talent down there is no joke. That high school, that South Florida talent, Kobe knows, because Bama used to snag them up a pretty good bit. Every now and then Georgia will get one, but if those boys stay home, that's scary. What are we going to say, Jackson?
Very scary.
Oh, what I was going to say, like, have y'all seen Miami's schedule the rest of the way?
I'm looking at it right now, and I'm being completely honest with you. Georgia Tech might be the only team that can hold them back and make a.
What's their toughest game the rest of the way? Because it clearly is not Florida State.
It's got to be Louisville or Georgia Tech. Like, they don't have a Clemson.
Yeah,
on
Louisville.
Here. They don't.
Louisville.
Like, Georgia Tech could be the only thing keeping them from that one seed.
They're a playoff team. They have punched their card. They punched their ticket to the playoff. That's what I think. Kobe, we got you here for a reason, man. Let's talk some Bama for a second. Let's hear what you got to say about Bama's team, man.
Well, we had a very good game against a smaller Western Kentucky team, but that is the type of game you want to see. You got this new coaching staff in there. I was very proud of the offensive play calling. I was more proud of the defense. And Kane Womack, our defensive coordinator that came over from South Alabama, I love his mentality, and I think it fits this crew well because even though we had a shutout, he's in the press conference after the game talking about, hey, we should have scored a pick six off this interception. We got it to the backfield, but we should have caused more fumbles with sacks. He's still picking at things, and it's very Saban, Kirby Smart-like. It's like even though your team just played an excellent shutout game, you're still looking for ways to improve. I love to see that mentality. Jalen Milroe, he came out slinging it. He only threw 9 passes, but he went for, 200 yards. He had 3 touchdowns throwing the ball. He also ran the ball a good bit, had 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. We saw that running back by committee. We saw Justice Haynes break off for 80-yard run, and Jam Miller had himself a touchdown. And everybody's talking about him, the 17-year-old phenom himself. Ryan Williams is going to be one of the greatest wide receivers to come through Bama if he's playing at this level for the rest of his career. He is going to be a great wide receiver. He's young. He doesn't have a lot of mileage on the tires. He's going to be really, really good. Bama hasn't had a dominant wide receiver one, honestly, since Jamison Williams got injured in that national championship. We haven't seen a dominant wide receiver one in Bama in a long time. But on the other end of it, we have a guy named Kendrick Law. He's a 4.3 40 guy. He's benching 450. Everybody in the weight room raves about him. He's a leader on the team. Bama has a lot of skill. We saw those young DBs. I was really impressed with what we saw. I think we have a little bit of a revenge tour with South Florida coming into town this week.
Oh, yeah, you're going to tear them up.
Last year, but we all know what we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to be tested against a real team, which is the Georgia Bulldogs in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. I was able to watch a little bit of it. Definitely looked good. It's exactly what you want to see when you play a team like that. You don't want to see them play around with them. You want to just go ahead, take care of business, call it a day.
Some of the other teams we're going to talk about today. Playing with their food a little bit.
Yeah. And coming from a Georgia fan, we've done that from time to time. That's not what you want to see. Is just these slow starts. One
more point, real quick.
Go ahead.
We lost a future first-round pick in the secondary position, and his replacement had 2 interceptions in the first quarter of that game.
Yeah, I think it was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week, right?
Yes, Keon Sabb, transfer from Michigan. I'm not going to say we miss Caleb Downs, but we miss him a little bit less after watching Keon Sabb.
Yeah, I can't blame you. Jackson, you got anything to say on the game?
No, I don't have a ton to add. Honestly, I didn't get a chance. It was going on at the same time as I was in Atlanta covering Tech and Georgia State. But I did get to watch some highlights and stuff. And I think that was exactly that was the perfect first game for DeBoer. It was crisp. There was zero doubt from the time the game kicked off about how good Alabama was. Milroe looked pretty solid throwing the ball. You had some receivers step up. No notes there. They looked really good.
Yeah. Y'all have already kind of brought it up, but Oregon, like you said, starting off slow. It was ugly. That was really, 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 really ugly. I didn't get to watch any of it firsthand. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I didn't watch any of that game, but I was keeping up with it and I was seeing what was going on. And I just don't know how you let Idaho stay in that game like that. 24-14, at home opener. What is going on? What was this? Did any of y'all actually watch it?
I watched it.
Speak on it.
And I have a question for both of y'all.
What's your question?
Why do I hear more criticism about Colorado's performance against North Dakota State and not enough criticism about Oregon and Idaho?
Oregon's a whole lot more, I think. I don't have criticism for Colorado. I thought that would.
Yeah.
I thought they would cover the spread. But I didn't think they were going to win by 30 points. Not all FCS teams were created equal. And, Colorado.
No, that is North Dakota is the most dominant FCS team in the last 2 years.
I don't know, Kobe. If you listen to last week's show, Jackson screwed me over. He told me that North Dakota wasn't going to be the normal North Dakota. He said they lost some talent. They ain't like that.
Hey,
you messed me up, man. I made the mistake of believing this guy.
But as far as Oregon is concerned, that's not the outing you wanted to see. We saw a couple teams play around with their food in week 1, but Oregon was the most shocking. Again, though, I think we got a lot of talented pieces, and I think they're going to be one of those teams where you got to get the ball rolling a little bit, got to get into week 5, week 6 of the season before you really see them start reaching their full potential. With that being said, as far as Dan Lanning, I don't think this looks very good on his part. Does that make sense?
It don't. Go ahead, Jackson.
Well, and I'm not excusing anything. Look, Oregon was my national title pick, but they were missing 2 or 3 guys on the O-line, I think. Just a little context. They held some guys out, I think. And the thing I keep coming back to, I'm trying to whether I should be just, okay, it's one game, or do I need to be really worried? Because the part of me that's worried is I'm sure y'all know, whenever they played FCS or weaker opponents, like Dan Lannon has run up the score. Like, I mean, just last year, or was it last year when they put 81 points on Portland State? Like, they really hammered
Yeah, and they waxed BYU, I think, 2 years ago, Bo Nix's first year. Like
they're generally, when they play these teams, like, they run the score up.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, I'm like, week 1 always produces some very strange results every year. Every single year, we'll get to week 9 and we'll look back and like, man, how did that happen? I mean,
prime example, Anthony Richardson in Florida beating Utah week 1.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
I'm sure y'all remember this. Remember the year Ohio State won the national title with Cardale Johnson? And remember, they lost to a really bad Virginia Tech team at the start of the year. And it was like, man, how does that even make sense? So there's a part of me that's like, we'll look back on this in like 5 or 6 weeks and wonder just what happened here when Oregon's rolling.
Yeah.
But it could also be a sign of like, maybe Oregon's not that great.
Yeah. That's what I don't know. I'm starting to think that way.
I don't really know how to handicap it because they're super talented.
They did lose a lot of people too, though. We got to keep that in mind. They did lose a lot of folks, but still, But as far as what you asked about, why is Colorado catching more hate? I guess it might be because of the attention they garner. As crazy as it sounds, Colorado gets a lot more views than I think Oregon does. I'm gonna be honest with you. Even though Oregon is Nike Central and they're winning those games.
Clicks, man.
Hey, don't play for clicks. I would love to see them go against each other again. That'd be funny, but it just I don't know. Other games we want to talk about here.
We gotta discuss Michigan. We gotta discuss.
Yeah.
I don't think the team I downgraded more after this week than Michigan.
That was weird. That was a weird showing. Weird first showing.
So I'll go first. I've got a theory. I think they were hoping that Alex Orji turned into some like Jalen Milroe-esque type quarterback where, yes, there are some errors in the passing game, but he's such a dynamic running threat. We can build the offense around him. They didn't go get any transfer portal wide receivers. And remember, Roman Wilson left, had some other guys left because their wide receivers stink. Like, I'll just right now. I think they were hoping to do that so bad, and then it turns out that this walk-on kid, and no disrespect to him at all, beats like, I don't think that they were planning on this at all, and I think they're a little flat-footed. That's just my, theory. I don't know if it's true, but that's what it seems like to me, and, I don't think they're a national title contender. I do not think they're a Big Ten contender anymore. I really think I downgrade them that much off of that game.
This pick today at the end is going to be interesting. I'm just going to let you know that.
I think it's really a testament to how good Harbaugh was. I mean, there was a lot of years where we thought – think about the first 3 years he was at Michigan, we're asking, when's he finally going to make a jump? Then next thing we know, he beat Ohio State, beat them 3 times or 2 times after that, went for the trifecta against them, and then he pulled a natty out of it. Now that he's gone, we're seeing them struggle against lesser talent whenever he's built an established program there. They made the playoff, 2 or the last 3 years in a row? So he has an established program. It's not like he was only there for 2 or 3 years. He was there for a while. Why does that not translate over with a guy that you promote from in-house? Why does it not translate well, especially coming off a national championship run?
I'm telling you, I think it's what I said is I think they really thought or were hoping Alex Orji would take this next step. They used him a lot in running package.
It seems like that.
I think they got to training camp and it's like, oh, he stinks because this kid that they started the other day, he wasn't even in the conversation in the spring, and now all of a sudden he is That's a big red flag to me.
That's scary to think about.
I still think they'll win 7-8 games. Just a lot of their schedule, their defense is pretty dang good. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson, those are first round picks. They'll overwhelm most teams they play. I don't think I put them behind USC after this game. I put them behind. I don't think they're that different from Iowa, to be honest. As much as we make fun of them.
That's a team we need to talk about real quick. Hold on, you just mentioned them USC Trojans.
Yeah, go ahead, Jackson. Brag on it.
Jackson, come on, let me feel it, baby.
Tyler got to have his gloating moment. He hit everything right about Florida.
You hit everything right about USC.
I was basically that y'all know that meme where all the bullets are coming in and you got the guy blocking them. That was me.
Yeah.
I was blocking Lincoln Riley from all the. Tyler had nothing to say. Nothing good to say about Lincoln.
Nothing good.
I was trying to remind him he's made some mistakes. He is still a very good football coach. And I really did. I compared their situation on defense a little bit to Georgia Tech's. I can tell you firsthand from just seeing them practice and seeing them every day, coaching makes such a difference. Yeah. And Tyler Santucci, like I'm not even here to say Georgia Tech's a top 25 defense, but they are so much better than they were last year. Yeah. DeAnton Lynn and the guys he hired there, like I just think coaching has just made such a difference there, and they've got more talent than Georgia Tech does on that side of the ball. Yeah. Now, I still want to play the long game here. Like I don't know. I still don't think they're going to be like a top 20 defense or anything like that. They're not going to turn into Georgia, Michigan, Alabama overnight. But Lincoln Riley can score points. Like their receivers are very good. Like me and Kobe were good. I thought they had a better receiving core than LSU, and I still stand on that. Like they're dynamic weapons. The one thing I am still worried about, I don't think their offensive line is very good. To be honest, I think I don't think LSU's D line is very good, which is one of the reasons.
I think LSU's defensive front has some dudes on there though.
It's the same personnel as last year. Like I don't think they were very good last year. And like in LSU, for example, like they were a little bit better, but like they didn't do anything in the transfer portal to upgrade their defense, which is just
not really.
In a program like LSU, when you can go get guys, that's mystifying to me. But anyway, so I worry about USC's offensive line, especially like. I think they're better than Michigan, but like Michigan probably has an advantage right there, and that could be a difference when they play in a couple weeks. But
be interesting.
I might be overreacting a little bit. I still think LSU is a good team. I think USC could make the
playoff
title game. Yeah, I don't think they can. Wow. I think they look at their schedule and their hardest game the rest of the way.
They could.
It's their hardest conference game the rest of the way is Penn State. They got to play Notre Dame, but that obviously doesn't matter. Yeah. They got to
play Michigan, right?
They do play Michigan.
Yeah.
I think they could beat Michigan. Like
they may. The trenches will say something though. We're going to see about that. We're going to see, man, because that defense might have something to say.
You happy about Florida's downfall? You're happy about USC's?
Yeah.
When are y'all finally going to listen to me about LSU? They are fraudulent. Y'all going to listen to me about LSU? Brian Kelly cannot handle this job. I think Brian Kelly is gone in the next 2 years from LSU, if not after this year. And it doesn't necessarily mean he has to be fired. He could easily just go take up a job somewhere else because I don't.
That Florida job. He might want to take that Florida job. He might want to take another job.
Here's my issue with LSU, and we talked about this in our preseason pod a couple weeks ago. You downgraded so much offensively that people don't even realize it. A lot of the talk is about, their wide receiver group, they do gritties and dances in the backfield, their defense from last year, blah, 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 blah. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, gone. That's 2 first-round receivers, gone. Their number one running option, Jaden Daniels, the quarterback, is gone. He was the only rusher they had even come close to 1,000 yards last year. The offensive line is very stout. They do not have a notable RB1 to talk about. I think Nussmeier played a really good game. I think it ultimately came down to Brian Kelly getting out coached. And that defense does not look formidable whatsoever. I mean, granted, they played a good offense. They played a talented offense, and they only lost by a touchdown. But that defense quit in the fourth quarter of that game. They absolutely quit and died out. LSU is not going to be the team they should be. They are not. They are one of the few teams that I feel like is underachieving, even though they just won the SEC 2 years ago, which is crazy to think about. They have to start recruiting. They have to start dipping into the transfer portal. They are not doing it at the level that they should. Now, this next recruiting class they have coming in, it looks really, really nice. But you have to get guys onto this team, and Brian Kelly has to prove that he can be a leader of men in the hardest conference in football. Because I promise you, LSU is going to play a lot harder games than USC this year. And they are going to have to be well coached, well disciplined, and play good enough defense if they want any chance of sniffing the SEC championship for the playoffs.
Yeah, they're going to let him stay there, like you said, just because of. I mean, he still is recruiting at a pretty good level, and this might make a difference. You're right about this class. I really haven't paid much attention to it, and just looking at it now,
it's a very good class. At one point, they had the number one running back, number one quarterback, and number one wide receiver committed at one point.
That's
it was
crazy,
crazy.
Dude.
They're over the summer.
That's crazy. Yeah, this is nice. But yeah, man, I'll admit my wrong. I'll eat my crow. I was wrong. Jackson, you were right, my man. You were right. I didn't get to watch too much of that game. We were out of town with a group, and we were doing other things, going swimming, things like that. So, but I got to see some of it. Some pretty crazy plays from USC. man, maybe they're going to get back to where they are. Who would have thought? USC, Miami back in the talks at the top of college football. So, last thing I'll mention here before we end the recap and get to the picks here in just a second, unless you guys have anything else, Georgia, Clemson. I'll bring that up and then we'll let you add my thoughts on that real quick. The slow start to begin, obviously 6-0 at half, really wasn't amazing. I wasn't like pissed off, but I really wasn't happy either. A lot of missed opportunities offensively, and that's still something we're going to have to fix. As of right now, my prediction on Alabama beating Georgia is still standing coming up here in a few weeks, just due to what I saw offensive play calling wise. I'm not here to come on and start doing the Bobo thing, but I mean, dude, you gotta. I know it's so common for us to do it, and I'm not saying I hate the guy or anything like that, but he really, it wasn't bad, Jackson. It wasn't bad, especially the second half, but for what we could have done, like honestly, like what we could have done that the whole game. And for once, I just want us to stick our chest out and show people what we've got offensively, because I'm telling you, we actually got some talent, man.
He says this after they just beat a team by 30. Like,
listen. Maybe.
How bad?
Listen, Kobe. Listen, dude, I'm not complaining. What I'm trying to say is, though, look, we could get away with what we did against Clemson doing what we did, okay? We're not going to be able to get away with what we just did against you guys. I'm just going to be honest with you. We're going to lose that game. If we start off slow and we don't execute, similar to what we did in the first half, and we go down early to y'all, I just don't know if there's any coming back. I'm going to be honest, and I don't think that's a crazy stretch. I just want us to show a little flex. We got a dude, Carson Beck, that should be getting some type of Heisman conversation. We got him at our disposal. I know ETN was out, but my God, did y'all see Nate Frazier? Nate Frazier looked legit. That's a guy I said, like, hey, man, you need to keep an eye on him. Dominic Lovett looked good. London Humphreys made some plays. Colby Young made some plays. Lawson Lucky.
Arian Smith.
Getting mixed in. Like, we got a great offensive line.
Also.
The tight ends.
Malachi Starks. Dude.
Oh, yeah. I ain't even talking about defense yet. Yeah, defense is something else. I still love our defense, and I'm glad I got them in our fantasy league. But offensive-wise, we got some dudes. We just need to show it. I want to showcase it, man. It's going to we need to start showcasing this so we get some more talent in these recruiting classes. But, I mean, I'm not going crazy. The second half was awesome. I really did like what I saw second half. It's just like I said, I want to get a little bit of a faster start. That's all I'm asking for. Don't kill me for saying that. I just want a little bit of a faster start. That's all I want. Anything y'all want to add to it? I know you said Malachi Starks. What else you want to say?
Now, look, I will say this. Georgia played a lot better than I thought they would. Not that I ever thought that they would lose this game, but I expected that first half went exactly how I expected it to go. I thought it was going to be a low-scoring defensive game. Clemson does have a good defense.
Pretty good. And they are disciplined and they tackle well. That's one thing I did take away from Clemson.
And they have 5 stars on that defense, so they have talent.
They do.
Offensively, now we talked about Florida State and Mike Norvell. The flip of that is going to be Dabo Swinney. Offensively, you have no talent there, brother. I thought they had a good
and the wide receiver, Williams, that's it.
Hey, if that. I mean,
he's actually not too bad.
They have to dig more into the portal, because right now high school recruiting isn't getting it done for them alone. You have to start digging into the portal. You have to start getting those big-name guys. I mean, think about the wide receivers that were in the portal this year. I'll throw you out a name, Julian Fleming from Ohio State. He entered his name into the portal. Granted, he was a very unproven guy at Ohio State, but that's a former five-star kid that's been in a high-level college program for 2 years. Take a chance on that guy. Take a chance on one guy. You just need one playmaker on that offense. Because honestly, I do not think Cade Klubnik is that bad of a quarterback. I don't believe that. I think he was very good coming out of high school. I think
I was in the same boat.
I think the same thing we saw that hinders DJU now is the lack of development at that quarterback spot. They're not calling play calls. They're not surrounding them by elite talent. You have good, talented quarterbacks coming out of high school, but you're doing nothing with them, and you're not supporting them in any way, shape, or form. I think a lot of this is more on Clemson just being bad and Dabo being stuck in his ways, opposed to Georgia not being able to air it out and not wanting to air it out. You know what I mean? I think it's more on Clemson.
We could have done more too. They were selling out for the run. They really were. Every play they were selling out for the run. We could have did more. I'm just telling you, like we really didn't reach our max potential in that game. I think we really could have done more. That's just me, Jackson.
I mean, I don't have much notes on Georgia specifically. I'll say this, and I hope Kobe doesn't like hurl through the screen at me. But like the Georgia's linebackers reminded me. I think they're the best group of linebackers I've seen since like early 2010s. Nick Saban, like 2011, 2012. They look good to me. Like I'm telling you, that's one of the best group of linebackers I've seen in a while.
I like that.
Hold on, we just gonna Tyler's gonna love this.
I like that.
Get them over that 2017 squad of linebackers with Roquan Smith and them boys. Them was some
That's pretty nice.
Georgia has had better linebacker rooms than this one. I hate to break
it
to you.
I disagree.
Jury's out. Let's see what they do this season, man. Because I do think the potential is there for it, Kobe.
Even Channing Tindall and the Kobe Dean.
That was nice. Quay Walker.
Come on, Jackson. Don't do this.
No, I think this group of linebackers.
They could be pretty good. They could be pretty good. I think the potential is there. I'm being for real. I think he's right.
But I don't know. That was one of my takeaways from that game.
It's a good hot take.
I was trying to just watch some specific player groups once I saw, okay, this game's going about exactly as I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
My other point I was going to make, like, look, Georgia's good. Like, I don't really have any hot takes about Georgia.
Number one team in the country for a reason. I mean,
they did about what I didn't think Clemson could score. That was what I think.
That felt good.
The Dabo, the transfer portal thing. I think there are going to be a lot of games this year where that's really going to be a main focus. I don't care what Dabo could have done in the transfer portal this game. Like, he was never winning. Like, these two programs are just in
that gap would have been a little less, though.
And
that's all I can say.
Is, like, I remember being in the stands when these two teams last played the 10-3 game. Like, I was there. And it's just crazy.
Was that JT Daniels starting that game?
JT Daniels, yep. DJU versus JT Daniels.
It was
two of the best we've ever seen.
One of the things I was thinking of, heading into to Saturday's game was, before that game it was almost flip-flopped. It's like Clemson was on the tier with Alabama, and Georgia was one trying to play catch-up. Like, Georgia was one trying to get up in that tier. It's just crazy in just a few years. Just like Clemson is now on the downturn a little bit, and like Georgia's on like king of the hill. But like I can criticize Dabo all day long for using the transfer portal. He doesn't even have to use it a lot. Like, just there's some spots on your roster that are just
pick and choose where you want to go with it.
If it's worse, is you can go back to the Deshaun teams, the Trevor teams, or anything. Their development at the skill positions since then has been. Like, remember when they turned out Mike Williams, T. Higgins, Hunter Renfrow? They put out some receivers.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sammy Watkins.
Did Martavis go there?
Yeah.
Good God.
A lot of years of Steelers.
Like, even
Justin Ross when he was healthy.
Justin Ross was nice. Yes.
I think when I started saying that, Kobe had flashbacks to that title game. He had to bring up Justin Ross before he forgot.
Listen, that one Bama game, that is the only Bama game I will never make an excuse for, because we just flat out got ran out of the field. Like, they just flat out beat us in every way, shape,
You could play that game 100 more times, and it would never result in a beatdown like that.
I don't know. That Clemson team was good.
It was good. But
they were good.
The only team that could go roster for roster with Bama that year was that.
But see, and that's what I'm saying is, like, just how things have just turned is just crazy to me. It's just, and I think the portal's the big humble. But I really think people should focus on the skill positions, especially receiver and quarterback. I mean, think about early Dabo, how they did at quarterback. They went from Taj Boyd, who was a good college quarterback. He wasn't elite, but he was good.
He was good. He was solid.
To Deshaun Watson, to Trevor Lawrence, and then it's just
awesome.
Sense, and it's
just awesome.
Hey, don't forget that short Kelly Bryant era.
Whatever it's worth.
For real.
That's fair.
They went undefeated and were number one. I mean, I know they lost to Alabama, but like he got them there. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. So we want to make some week 2 picks. Here we go. All right. So last week, Torres and Jackson tied. They were 7-4. I was 6-5. So we'll see if. Let's see if we can do a little better this week, especially me. All right. So Colorado versus Nebraska. Kobe, you had the talk about Colorado earlier. How do you think this one's going to play out?
Man, where is this game played at?
Nebraska.
Don't tell me
Nebraska.
God.
Yeah, and they're the favorites here.
Give me Nebraska to win, but give me Colorado to cover the spread. I think that is a very close game. I think it might end up in a shootout. Another guy we haven't talked about this pod, but Dylan Raiola looked nice, brother. He looked
I
good.
didn't get to watch it. I didn't get to watch it.
Dylan Raiola looked really good at playing at
I was trying
home.
to say, I thought he looked pretty good.
I think Nebraska's trending in the right direction. Give me Nebraska to win, but Colorado's going to cover that spread.
Okay, so Colorado plus the 7.5. All right, Jackson.
It's a 7.5. I mean, they can lose by 10 and still cover. So
yeah.
I'm pretty much right in line. If it was anything under 7, I might take Colorado in those points, but or Nebraska to cover that. But 7 and a hook, now they probably got to win by 10 to cover that. About that, I'm very interested how this game plays out because Colorado just looked still very similar to last year. I think the offensive line
very similar.
I don't think it's great, but it's much better. But their skill positions are great. Like Travis Hunter is freaking awesome. Like he's great. Shadur Sanders looks. I really like him. Their defense sucks.
How was Nebraska's defense? Did any of y'all get an eye on it?
I mean, they played UTEP, so I don't know how much.
Yeah, you can't really gauge it on that. I mean, they won 40-7. So I mean.
I'll say this. I know before they hired D'Anton Lynn, Lincoln Riley went hard after that Nebraska defensive coordinator. They were very well coached on that side of the ball.
Okay. So Colorado, you're going with them on this one?
I'll take to cover. I think Nebraska.
Yeah. All right. I'll take Nebraska to beat them by more than 7.5. That's what I'll do. I'll be the odd guy on that one. I'll do that. If their defense can actually show up, and they can put. I feel like the coaching edge has to go to Nebraska a little bit on this one.
I will say this: I think Shadur Sanders is a bona fide top 3 quarterback in this next class.
He's pretty good. He's been getting that hype.
I think he's bona fide. I mean, I like the way I like to think of it. Put Shadur Sanders on Georgia right now. Is he still successful? I think he's more successful. That's kind of what I have to gauge.
He's the most accurate quarterback in the country. He's very, very accurate.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
Remember, we were actually recruiting him for a while until Dad, got a college football job. So, I mean, there went that. So, all right, South Carolina versus Kentucky. South Carolina, it was a little tight this past weekend for a little while, but did y'all see the freaking freshman from them? Yes, God almighty, dude. I was looking at some clips of him today. Dude, he is awesome. That kid is awesome. Holy crap. And I know that was against a lower level team, but good Lord, that looked pretty good. How was the offense in that game? Did anybody get to catch any of that? What'd you see?
I think they looked like the worst team in the SEC just solely based on week 1. Obviously, you want to say Vanderbilt, but they beat Virginia Tech, so you can't.
They did, so you can't say Vanderbilt. Yeah. What did Nick Harbor get involved at all?
That was what I was going to point to because I've kind of started to come to. I don't think he's good, guys. I don't.
He's just good. He's good in the game.
Yeah, he's good. People saw that he's 6'5", running at 10.
He's a freak of
he's an athletic specimen.
Yeah, he is. I don't think he's good at all. And it's his first start and everything, but Norris Sellers looked really bad.
Dude, he was being recruited to play defensive end coming out of high school. He was the number 1 athlete in the class. I don't think he's a tight end or wide receiver, whatever they're trying to make him.
I don't think South Carolina's any good, and I think Shane Beaver might get fired.
I think Kentucky wins this, and I think Kentucky covers the spread.
I don't even know how good Kentucky is. It's just I know what I get in Mark Stoops.
They look good. I think they won 31.
It's at Kentucky too, so count me in for that as well. I'll take Kentucky to cover the 10. What about you, Jackson?
Give me Kentucky.
All right, so let's move on to this one. Baylor going against number 11 Utah at Utah. 14-point spread here. Jackson, lead us off with this one.
I'll keep this very simple. I think Utah is one of the top 3 teams in the Big 12. They're a very physical team. Cam Rising threw 5 touchdowns in his first game back, which I know they played a really bad team, but he hasn't played football in a long time, even though he's been for a long time. Mm-hmm. I think Baylor's one of the worst teams in the Big 12. I don't think they're very good. I also think it sounds weird to say, 3 years ago he was getting on a lot of hot boards as one of the top young coaches. But I think Dave Miranda is another coach I'd watch get fired this year. I don't agree. Be good. He'll be defense coordinator for somebody next year.
Yeah.
Give me Utah to cover. Win and cover.
Cub?
Give me Utah to cover. And I was on the Dave Aranda hype train for a while, but I don't think his tenure at Baylor's going to last much longer past this year. Also, Utah, very solid team. I could very well see Utah make the playoffs this year. They won 49-0 against a lousy Southern Utah team. But, again, in those games, you love to see those performances. Give me Utah to cover.
Yes, I'm going to go with that as well. All right, Arkansas going against number 16 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is 7.5-point favorite here. This one, this one's a little tighter here. Anybody chomping at the bit to start this one off?
Give me Oklahoma State to win and cover.
Okay.
I still think Arkansas is bottom of the barrel in the SEC. I mean, they went viral a couple times this past weekend. They had players running for touchdowns and waving the cheerleaders. I don't care. Give me Oklahoma State to win and cover.
I will say that Oklahoma State non-conference games always scare me. I don't care how good Oklahoma State is. I've had a theory over the past like 5 to 8 years.
Hey, everything about Oklahoma State scares you, dog.
Yeah, I think Mike Gundy's a really good coach. It's a good program. He, over the long haul of his career, has tended not to care about non-conference games. I mean, like, they got to the Big 12 title game last year. Do we remember that they lost to South Alabama 33-7? Yeah. Like, they have these weird
they do
performances in non-conference games. I think they win and cover because I don't think Arkansas is that good, to be honest. Yeah. But
who did Oklahoma State play this past week?
They played
South Dakota State.
And they are the number one team in FCS for what that's worth.
Yeah.
44-20.
Yeah.
Golly. I really do want to take Pittman here.
I just don't know if I
can trust
him. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
I could just see that guy can run. The quarterback can run pretty well. I know they got some decent players here and there throughout it. Oh,
it wouldn't shock me if, like, at 3 o'clock, we're all texting each other, hey, Arkansas's got a chance right here. Like, hey, this game's a lot closer.
Yeah.
It should be like that. I don't feel confident in picking Oklahoma State, but
I'm going to pick Oklahoma State as well. I'm not going to pull it. I'm going to chicken out on it. All right. Number 17, Kansas State. They're a 10-point favorite over Tulane. This isn't Tulane of the recent past, right? So, I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on Kansas State here?
The last time I said a team wasn't as good as they've been in the past, North Dakota State looked better than I thought. So that part scares me, I guess. But
yeah,
Tulane's lost a lot from like the Willie Fritz past couple of years. John Summerall's a good coach. For anybody that doesn't know, he was at Troy these past few years. He's a good coach. I think Kansas State's a contender in the Big 12. I think Kansas State rolls them.
Yeah, I agree. Give me Kansas State to win and cover.
Okay, that makes it all in agreement. K-State on that. All right, Jackson, you got to start this one off. 23 Georgia Tech. They're ranked. They're 3-point favorites here against Syracuse at Syracuse. Fran Brown, are you scared?
The point spread is not big, so I wouldn't say scared. I think the simplest way I can put this, I think we've all seen the viral clip of Brent Key saying run the ball and everything. So I don't know. I watched this game, so because I was getting ready for Syracuse, and so y'all didn't have to. So I watched Syracuse and Ohio last weekend. Ohio was projected in a lot of advanced stuff I saw to be the 133rd ranked offense in the country. They ran for 300 yards on Syracuse last week. Syracuse's best linebacker is out for half the season after that game. What does Georgia Tech do?
They run the ball.
I just think I don't think Syracuse can stop the ground attack. Now, Kyle McCord looked pretty good last week. I know it's threw for like 4 touchdowns, and one of the littler known receivers in the country that's going to be a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick is Rondé Gadsden. Like, that's a name I think people need to know. He was excellent in 2022. He tore his ACL in the first game last year. Had 100-something yards and a couple touchdowns last week. Like, he's a really legit player, and I think this is the best passing attack Tech's played this year, which isn't saying much when you played Florida State and Georgia State. But I think Syracuse's run defense is just going to be just bad. Like, it was really bad last week, and then you lose your best player on an already bad defense. I just don't think they're going to be able to stop them. I think Jamal Haynes goes for like 100+. I think they probably run for like 250+. Like, I think Georgia Tech wins and covers.
Give me
Kobe.
Georgia Tech. Jackson, don't hate me. Give me Syracuse to cover. I do think this is a lot closer game. And I am basing this
Ooh.
off of the quarterback battle that we just saw with USC and LSU. I think we're going to see a quarterback battle with Haynes King and Kyle McCord. I think it's going to come down to who can make the most plays. So I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag out. Give me Georgia Tech to win, but I like Syracuse to cover.
Wow, close game too, man. All right, yeah. Give me Georgia Tech to cover the 3. They just look like a better team this year. I'm going to roll
They
with them.
do. They do.
All right, Iowa State,
Oh, God.
Iowa, the fun one. Jackson, you look ecstatic. Go ahead and lead us here.
Take the under in this game, first of all. This
Of course,
is a reliable
of
game
course.
in the country. Like, this is
Oh, man.
Iowa State's defense is good. We know Iowa's offense. Hey, Iowa put up 40 points last week. Should we give them like a round of applause?
Yeah. They actually did okay.
Yeah. I actually am kind of low-key looking forward to this game because I actually think both teams are good. Like, they're not like contenders, but like I think these are 2 solid teams. I think Iowa State's a contender in the Big 12. But like, I don't know if anybody knows the history of this game. Iowa State does not beat them. Like, this is one of those, like, it's a rivalry, but Iowa dominates this rivalry. Like, every time you think Iowa's, like, you know, everybody was talking about them. You had Brock Purdy, Brees Hall, Alan Lazard, and all those guys, and then Iowa wins. It's like clockwork. It's at Iowa, I think. Give me the Hawkeyes cover. It's just take the under.
I'm going to roll with that as well.
Team, but
at home, like you said, they were actually able to put up some points last week. Maybe they'll do the same thing here. And like you said, they run that one. So yeah, I'll go Iowa as well.
Yeah, give me Iowa. I mean, the -2.5 kind of give me Iowa to cover as well. Also, I think Jackson made this point to me a couple weeks ago. Is there a chance Iowa is only a 1 or 2 loss team this year?
oh yeah.
The only other big game they have this year is Ohio State.
They're going to lose to Ohio State, but like they could be 11-1.
Yeah.
It's going to make people so mad because you know they're going to be winning in the grossest ways possible, but they're going to be sitting there as like the 10 seed. And I would be all for, you know, say Alabama or Georgia did.
Oh my God!
Let's send Iowa down south and let's get a matchup.
Jesus, that'd be a mess.
Be funny. All right. This next one, number 19 Kansas is a 5-point favorite over Illinois. Kobe, what you got here?
Give me America's team, the Kansas Jayhawks, to win and to cover. I love everything about Kansas. Me and Jackson, we've kind of built this relationship with Kansas where
Y'all sure did.
If Kansas is winning football games, you know the country's headed in the right direction. So Kansas scored 48 points last week. That is no surprise to me. They have a lot of playmakers. They got a couple playmakers on the back end of that defense. I think Kansas is going to be a really good football team. I think they are going to be in contention to win the Big 12 this year. Give me Kansas the winning cover.
Yes, the 2024 Big 12 champions are going on the road this week and beating Illinois. I've got my money where my mouth is on that too. It's not just that I'm not saying that. I've got Kansas winning that. Look, I mean, they played Lindenwood last week. You don't take nothing from that. Like, as long as Jalen Daniels stays healthy, their offense is just going to be dynamite. And I think they're improved, as improved as Kansas can be on defense. Like, obviously, they don't recruit at a high level, but that is one of the most well-coached teams in the country. Just top.
Yeah.
We all remember the joke they used to be not that long ago.
Yeah.
The job Lance Leipold has done there has been just awesome. Give me Kansas to win the cover.
Kansas as well. They're just too good of a team. They can beat Illinois here. I think they'll be fine. All right. This one right here. Boise State going against number 7 Oregon. Oregon is a 19-point favorite when they just only won by 10 against Idaho. Boise State coming off of a big win against Georgia Southern. It was close there for a minute. I went back to the score. I was like, oh, shoot, Georgia Southern's in this thing. Then they just kind of went off. Like, the running back went crazy. Just question-wise, I mean, I could look it up, I guess, if I want. How did Idaho run the ball against Oregon? Were they able to run it at all? Or?
Honestly, Idaho didn't do a ton of offense. When they scored, it was off trick plays. Like, you could tell they were
okay.
It was just like, look, we can't just run regular stuff against Oregon. So, like, they scored on a couple of trick plays. So, because Oregon beat them by a lot.
Yeah, I'm wondering how Boise State's gonna do. Because I mean, obviously they can run the ball. The Gene T or whatever had like them.
Yeah.
ton of touchdowns and ton of rushing yards. I'm wondering if they can replicate it this game. And Boise State's defense, obviously, they gave up some points to Georgia Southern. It's going to be tough. So I'm not going to take them to win, but I'm going to take Boise State to stay within 19 points. That's what I'm going to go with here.
Yeah, I think we're kind of all in unison here. I don't think Oregon blows the doors off Boise State. I think Boise State is a very hard fighting team. They're going to do everything they can to score as many points as possible, and that starts with letting G&T run the rock. And I think if they can do that, you keep a high flying Oregon offense off the field that can score at will if they live up to their potential. Give me Oregon to win, but I do like Boise State to cover.
What you got, Jackson? Same thing?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I just don't want to take Oregon to cover based off last week. Like,
no, it's like
it has to be 2
impossible.
weeks ago. I thought this was going to be a body bagging. To be honest, to be honest, this could be a potential playoff matchup because Boise State could be that Group of 5 team. This isn't Boise State.
They could.
Although I do think I'll just go ahead and I don't have any real takes about the next year's running back class. This kid will be the first running back drafted. He is
wow
stud. Give me Oregon to win, Boise State to cover, and also this game's on Peacock. That's kind of
weird.
That's
weird.
Shout out
fan.
It's those West Coast games, man.
10:00
Yeah.
on Peacock.
All right, yeah. No, I don't know. That's tough. All right, number 14, Tennessee is an 8-point favorite here over number 24, North Carolina State. And I'm just going to come out and say this one immediately. Give me Tennessee. Give me them give me them to cover that 8 points. They look good. They looked really good this past week. I mean, as they should. They did what they were supposed to do. NC State kind of struggled there for a minute, right? I mean, they were kind of letting the game kind of play out in the wrong way. I just think Tennessee's really talented. I talked about them in the preview show. I got them going 11-1, and one of those wins out of those 11 is this game right here against NC State. So yeah, give me Tennessee. That's an easy bet.
Yeah, give me Tennessee to win and to cover. I think Tennessee's a very high-powered team. I love seeing Josh Heupel with another elite quarterback in his hands. They got elite guys on the outside. I think they can run the ball a little bit. I had Nico as the best quarterback coming out of his high school class.
Yes, you did. I remember that.
I think he's going to be a dark horse Heisman winner this year. We hear a lot about Shador. We hear even Jalen Milroe got a couple running backs in there. I think that Nico could very well end up being a Heisman contender. We see him in New York. Give me Tennessee to win and cover.
Jackson.
Okay, so I have been driving the Tennessee hype train as well. I love Nico. I think I have him going to the playoff. I will paint a scenario here, and I'll go back to what I said earlier. There is always a week 1 result that's weird. We could look back and see them struggling with Western Carolina as a weird result. And I'll say I have a ton of respect for Dave Doran and what he does at NC State. They won 8 or so games. This could be, and everybody's loving Tennessee. Nico looked awesome. They looked awesome. And then all of a sudden, NC State makes it ugly. They make Tennessee play sloppy. I like Tennessee to win and cover. I did not like what I saw at NC State, but I'll say this is another one of those games where it could maybe be closer than you think. Just so
temper your expectations.
Yeah, possibly because I think people
I can see that
assumption that it's NC State was bad last week. Tennessee looked good. Tennessee's going to win easily.
Yeah,
not always that simple. Just let you know.
Yeah. I could definitely see that scenario played out. NC State comes out and makes this one a lot more tough on Tennessee. Let's see here. Hang on. Here we go. Torres chiming in. Boise State ran through Georgia Southern. Literally. Also, Tennessee should mop NC State. Nico looks nice. So there's his pick.
I agree.
All right. So last one here. Number 3 Texas is a 7.5-point favorite going against number 10 Michigan. We talked about this one earlier. This is tough. I had Texas losing this one at Michigan. And I don't know. I don't know, man. It got a lot tougher after this last week, man. That got a lot more tough of a pick. I don't know, man. 7.5 points now. Good gracious.
And it was 2 last week.
Yeah.
Shot up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It did. I don't know if I can really gauge much of Texas's defense off that Colorado State game. So I don't really know where they're at defensively. Oh my God!
I'll make a quick point. I think just
go ahead.
One of the best position battles you'll see all year: Texas's offensive line versus just Michigan defensive line. That'll be an awesome battle. Regardless of how the game plays out, Both teams have first round picks up front. I just wanted to say.
You know what?
I agree.
I'm gonna. Oh my God! The 7 and a hook makes this a lot tougher. I'm actually starting to lean Texas wins, but they don't cover. I think Michigan is able to either win this game or keep it within that 7.5. I'm gonna go Michigan plus the 7.5. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Where you want to go, Kobe?
Give me Texas and Texas to cover. Texas is one of those teams. I don't think Michigan has the offensive firepower. They ain't even got the quarterback spot figured out yet. You cannot do that against a high-powered, talented team like Texas, and Texas still has some talent on that defense. Give me Texas very comfortably.
Whew.
My
Jackson.
my biggest concern with Texas going into the year is, they lose Byron Murphy, you lose Sweat. Like, they lost.
Yeah.
On defense. I don't know that's going to – where this is going to be the game where Texas's defense potentially gets exposed a little bit. This isn't – I'll just, again, say what I said about NC State, Tennessee. This is – everybody knows how bad Michigan looked. Everybody knows how good Texas looked, and the line is clearly shot up. And it's at Michigan. Michigan's defense, I still believe, is elite. This wouldn't shock me if somehow they ugly this game up because, again, that's how they get this done. It's like Michigan's got to muddy it up and run the ball. I just cannot get the Davis Warren in that offense out of my head. Like, give me Texas to win and cover. I just think they're more explosive at the end of the day.
Okay.
I don't think you go into a game. I don't even care if it's at home. Dude, you got questions at the quarterback spot.
I'm not
And then not only that,
strictly
you don't know-
basing it off that. The home does help a little bit, but to me, I still think the defense will be able to keep them in this game.
I agree, but it's how many points is Michigan scoring here?
It's how
Because
many times can Michigan's defense hold off until Michigan finally starts getting points on the board? You know
This,
what I mean?
this game, this is going to have to be a rock fight. Like, literally, Michigan's going to have to try to control the clock, run the ball, hold it, and then play good defense. I think that's how they're going to have to play this game, and I feel like they're going to find a way to do it. I don't know. The coaching edge definitely goes to Texas here, going against a rookie head coach. I don't know. I feel like there's something that's going to keep them. I feel like there's a way they stay in this game. I don't know.
Here's the thing is Texas could win 24-10 and it'd be ugly and they still cover. Because how many points is Michigan going to score? And I wanted to say
get what you're saying.
LSU discussion. I'll drop it right now since we're talking about Michigan. Just a random thought I've had, especially since the Brian Kelly stuff. Could Michigan look back and regret promoting Sharon Moore so quickly and not regret maybe going after Brian Kelly? 'Cause Kelly seems like he'd be fit at Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Better fit than LSU.
Yeah.
I could see
that's
that.
a good point. That's a good point. Man. All right. And any last things you guys want to say here before we break it down?
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Okay. All right.
This
Jackson.
I'm glad football's back. I'm not going to be able to make the trip to Syracuse this week, so I'm watching it like the rest of y'all. I'm just going to be on my couch all day.
And
Reckham Tech.
I'm going to be blowing up y'all's phones all day just because that's the natural order of things when football season rolls around.
There you go. Hey, I wouldn't expect it. I wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't have it any other way. Yes.
Very much so.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys out there that joined the live stream. Thank you out there for listening to the podcast. We do appreciate the support. If you want to support the show, just go into the description of the podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are located. Click on the Linktree link, and there's many different ways you can support and promote the show. We love coming out here and doing this with you guys. Thank you to Jackson and Kobe for joining today. And as always, we'll see you guys next time.